Here we go again, folks, or more accurately, here we continue to go. The left and the media, they just can't quit Donald Trump. They want to lock him up so bad it hurts. Now, this week, Letitia James, arguably the most partisan attorney general in these United States, announced that after more than 2 years of ongoing investigations into Donald Trump and the Trump Organization, New York State is expanding its civil inquiry into a criminal one. This is a woman, mind you, who was elected on the blanket promise to effectively find something, anything, that would allow her to prosecute the 45th president of the United States of America in a court of law. Don't believe me? Well, this is her just before she was even elected.
And what would you say to people who say, oh, I'm not going to bother to register to vote because my voice doesn't make a difference, or I'm just one person?
I say one name, Donald Trump. That should motivate you. Get off your ass and vote.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
I love it.
That is your impartial judiciary at work. Amazingly, 5.5 years after tireless investigations, the only place the left and their allies in justice have been able to press their case has been in the court of public opinion. Our nation spent more than $30 million on the Mueller report. 34 people were indicted and/or pled guilty. 3 companies pled guilty. And if this comprehensive report or the investigations revealed criminality on the part of Donald Trump, they could have been arrested minutes after Joe Biden finished taking the oath of office. That didn't happen. Since the release of the New York Times expose on Trump's tax history and business practices 3 years ago in 2018, prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office were hot on the trail of Donald Trump. From the shuttering of the Trump Foundation and 2 impeachment trials, the message from the left has been clear. Donald Trump is not a businessman turned public servant. He is a kingpin in charge of a criminal organization. That is why they say in thought, word, and deed in the halls of Congress or on your cable news dials and in your local paper of record. That is the sentiment, whether they say it or not. And yet nearly 6 years after the most scrutinized man in the history of American politics rode down an elevator to put America first, none of the public accusations of criminality have yet to yield a single indictment. And that is a major problem, because hanging the prospect of a presidential prosecution over America is destructive to American public life. It is put up or shut up time here in America. There is a reason why we don't have a long history of presidents being dragged into court. And it's not because the men who have occupied the office have not ever bent or battered our rule of law. It is because even the hint of a legal system weaponized to settle political scores and mete out political retribution would compromise the standing of our criminal justice system as a whole. Which is what makes the actions of New York Attorney General Tish James so perplexing. If Donald Trump is, in fact, Al Capone, if the Trump Organization is really an active, ongoing criminal enterprise led by a man who used the patina of legitimacy to become the President of the United States, if this is, in fact, the greatest RICO racketeering case of all time, what lawyer in their right mind leaks it to the press that there is any investigation occurring at all, much less one that has graduated from civil to criminal? Now, many experts have given their reasons for why this decision could have been made. But as judges all across this nation often admonish and instruct the jury, please, do not check your common sense at the front door. And we, the people, my friends, in this particular instance, we are the jury. Because the people empowered to bring the president to trial in a courthouse continue to make their case exclusively in front of television cameras. It looks good for a district attorney weighing a run for governor, quietly as it's kept, and elected on the promise to pin a felony on Donald Trump to remind people that she is hard at work. And it's a great story for a network like CNN to cover, considering the fact that since the alleged mob boss in question has left the Oval Office, 50% of their audience in primetime has turned off their television sets. So make no mistake about it. These people will not stop until they can prove Donald Trump is the kingpin of kingpins. And they don't care if they have to rip this nation completely apart to do it. Because Donald Trump is their sacred cash cow. He is their political fairy godmother. They just want him in an orange jumpsuit for the sequel. So the bottom line is this. If Trump really is a Don, then show us. If an organized crime syndicate latched itself onto the executive branch of these United States of America, then you damn well better prove it. Because after all of this, after you've held up a potential perp walk of a former president over this nation like the sword of Damocles, if the only result of this incessant declaration of undeniable corruption is an indictment of Jimmy Nobody from accounting 2 months before the midterm, if they end up writing baseless walls are closing in around Trump to try to grease Joe Biden through what is shaping up to be the bloodiest midterm in a generation, then the damage they would have caused to our institutions will dwarf anything they ever accused Donald Trump of having done himself. Put up or shut up and stop ripping this nation apart in the name of your so-called unity.